Sadashivasamaramбhaṃ Shankaracharyamध्यamāṃ Asmadacharyaparyantāṃ Vande Guruparamparaṃ Shrutismrutipurāṇānaṃ Ālayam Karuణālayam Namāmi Bhagavatpādam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya dakshina murtaye namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantan Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Paramparam. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. So the next few verses, Vidyaranya is going to be introducing Ishvara and Jiva and the cause for samsara. So he says in the 15th verse, we can chant it together. Chidanandamaya, together. Chidanandamaya Brahma Pratibimba Samanvita Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna Prakritir Dvividha Chasa. So now he is introducing concept of Prakriti. Prakriti is the word name in Sanskrit for the material cause of the universe. As I said, there are many names, so don't get confused, but it is universe viewed from certain standpoints. These Sanskrit names are used because the same one thing, which is consciousness, is being unfolded through various standpoints. So Prakriti is the name given for the material cause for this universe. And the material cause, he says, Sa Prakritihi, is made of three gunas. So Prakriti and Maya are synonymous. We have seen, if you've studied the preliminary text, Trigunatmika Maya. Trigunatmika Maya means the material cause comes with three particular qualities. What are these? It says here, Tamas Rajas Sattva. Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna. Guna means qualities. And these are three qualities that are set in here, the whole universe. And if we dwell into the nature of these qualities, actually we can see ourselves, there is some truth to what is being said. These three qualities, everyone, anywhere can sense that there is changes like this that are happening. And he says here, these tamas, rajas and sattva gunas are there in this reflection of Brahman. So here he's introducing another prakriya, methodology of teaching given in Vedānta called Pratibimbavada, which is the methodology of reflection, reflected consciousness. So consciousness, we don't, want to get into the idea there's two consciousness. Sometimes you see these diagrams, original consciousness, reflected consciousness. No, there's no two here. Reflection belongs to the original. But when we say consciousness manifests, it gets reflected like the sun. Again, sun is a beautiful, maybe Ishvara created the sun so we could teach this knowledge. Because the sun, when it is reflecting off a mirror, what happens? Or the sun reflecting off another example, which is used in the Shastra, is a lot of pots filled with water. So there are a lot of clay, in those days clay pots were the main type of pots. So Swamiji always used to have, like props of big clay pot, small clay pot, medium clay pot. We don't have any here, but clay in pots which are filled with water. So some pots are 5-liter pots, some 1 liter, some 100 milliliters. You have various different sizes of pots, and inside the pots, the water quality also varies. Some may be very dirty water in the pot, some have very clean water, but all of the pots contain water of different qualities, and the pots themselves are of different sizes. But when the sun reflects on the pots, what happens? You see the reflection of the sun depending on the clarity of the water, right? So a pratibimba is this. Pratibimba is reflected consciousness. Reflected consciousness is the cause for the jiva. We are actually considered, another word which is you may have heard is chidabhasa. Chidabhasa is reflected consciousness in Sanskrit. Consciousness which manifests through the individual is actually reflected consciousness. The original is like the sun. It is there always, but in my mind is the reflection of the truth. As we saw in the earlier sessions, the ananda that I experience as a jiva, individual, is a mere reflection of the original ananda, original happiness. So this is the prakriya or the methodology of teaching that he brings in here. He says that sattva, rajas and tamas is there in the reflection of Brahman, which is important to understand. It is there in the reflection, but it is not there in the original. Original is what? It is attributeless, qualityless. So the qualities cannot touch Brahman, but they are there in the reflected consciousness. And he says here, Chidanandamaya Brahma Pratibimba Samanvita. And this is twofold. So this reflected consciousness, which is Prakriti. Prakriti is the reflected consciousness because it has the three qualities, is divided into two. He says here, Chidanandamaya Brahma Pratibimba Samanvita. Prakriti is the Moola Karanam, or the original cause that brings about everything in this universe. It is like another example which is very good to understand. Prakriti or Maya is non-separate from Brahman. Brahman is like the hand. Hand doesn't do anything. It just is. Hand is. When the hand starts waving, does the waving belong to the hand? Yes. Is the waving separate from the hand? No. Can the hand remain separate from waving? Yes. That is called independent existence. Brahman independently exists. But when the waving comes, creation takes place. So Prakriti is said to be the material cause for creation. All the changes that we witness in our day-to-day lives, in everything, in all the, our living, day-to-day living, we see so many changes. The seasons are changing, the weather is changing, we ourselves are changing, body is changing. Wherever we go, there is nothing but change. Change is the only constant of the world, right? The only constant in this world is change. All the changes that you witness are due to Prakriti. Brahman doesn't do anything. It's very boring, doesn't do anything, just lights up everything. It is Maya, the dance of Shakti. That's why we have always this, many cultures also recognize this yin yang, this male, masculine, feminine aspect. It is the feminine aspect that is responsible, the Shakti, the power for creation. So this is what is being discussed. Brahma asti, Prakriti asti, but are there really two separate realities? We have seen there are not two separate realities. There is only one reality. But again, one is, if there's only one reality, what about Prakriti? It is mithya. It is mithya because it is a superimposition on the one. When you inquire into Prakriti, there's no Prakriti. When you inquire into Maya, there is no Maya. Maya has been brought in to explain the Jagat. Because from our standpoint, we are living in a world of objects, of names, forms. This is all our experience here. We are living in this world, and we have different disciplines also of studying the world as well. Studying different disciplines, physics, chemistry. We have different disciplines of studying this world. But when we inquire really into what the world is, as I said, cognitive inquiry into any object you take, it comes down to parts. Parts have their causes, those causes become effects, those effects have their causes, it goes into infinite regression if there is not a basis for all of this. So Prakriti is brought in initially to explain creation. To understand our experiences in this Jagat, Prakriti is brought in. And Shastra also talks about 3 types of realities. So Prakriti is the field of Vyavaharika, transactional reality. When we see the world, we bring in Prakriti. But there is another reality which is our own superimposition on what is created, right? So creation I have nothing to do with. As an individual, I didn't create the trees, I didn't create the sun, I didn't create the moon. That's very clear. I don't have knowledge for that. When Prakriti and Brahman, they're brought together, that is what we call Ishvara. It's given a name. Maya, Brahman, or Prakriti, Brahman brought together. The condition, Brahman conditioned by Prakriti, Brahman conditioned by Maya is given a title. And that title is what? Ishvara. So Ishvara becomes with attributes. Ishvara becomes the attributeful Brahman. Brahman cannot have attributes. As you remember, it's pure awareness, pure consciousness. But how do we account for the laws, the orders, everything, in this Vyavaharika transactional reality? We have been seeing Ishvara, we're bringing more of Ishvara, understanding of Ishvara into our lives. Ishvara is has to be brought in to resolve many of our issues. But Ishvara itself is a title given to Brahman conditioned by Maya. Maya resolved in Brahman, there is only Brahman, consciousness. Maya manifest, the power of Brahman manifest as the universe becomes Ishvara. This is the two words in why we use Brahman is pure consciousness. That's why in English we qualify consciousness with pure. When we say pure consciousness, it is consciousness untainted by attributes, by any qualities. It doesn't do anything. Pure consciousness means there is nothing. It is tasteless, formless, one whole. But when that pure is removed, only consciousness, manifest consciousness manifests through upadhi. See, upadhi, another Sanskrit word you may have heard many times. Upadhi means that which is in proximity with something takes on the attributes of that thing. That which is in proximity with something takes on the attributes of that thing. Can you give me the thing? I'll explain. So this is our usual in Shastra. So, can you see through the glass, can you see the flower? So, are these two things or one thing? They are two things. The flower in proximity, close proximity with the glass, which is clear, pure, what happens? The glass appears as though colored. That is called upadhi. The flower becomes upadhi for the glass. The flower becomes an upadhi for the glass. In the same way, this whole creation becomes an upadhi for Brahman. This whole creation is Maya. It is Maya, Shakti, appearing. Agatita Gatana Patiyasi Maya. She is the one who makes the impossible possible. What is impossible? To make the one appear as many. But it happens. The one appears as many. Agatita Gatina Patiyasi Maya. So Maya is brought in to explain the multiplicity that we experience, knowing there is only one thing. How do we do it? Because she is upadhi for Brahman. She, I call her she because Maya Shakti is she. So what is upadhi for me? What is the limitation for me? What in proximity with me limits as though limits me, gives me qualities, gives me attributes. Body, mind, senses for the individual become my upadhi. Body, mind, senses called upadhi. So body, mind, senses are my upadhi. For Ishvara, Maya is his upadhi. So this is very important to understand, because you take away Ishvara's upadhi, you take away Maya, you take away our upadhis, you take away body, mind, senses, cognitively. You don't have to kill yourself. Cognitively, you take away what is there, pure consciousness. That is where oneness is. On the intrinsic level, Tattva-viveka, to understand that, it is consciousness minus the upadhis. Upadhis, remember, as though limit that which they are close to. They as though limit, but they are, it cannot limit can it make the crystal red? Is the crystal really red? Crystal is not really red. Crystal is always pure. Crystal is always taintless. It cannot be colored by the red color, but it appears red. Same with us. We cannot be affected by all the attributes of the upadhi, body, mind, senses. Is in close proximity, Atma shining through body, mind, senses. But because of the proximity, what happens? I take myself to be the body, mind, senses. And I take on the attributes of the body, mind, senses. Like that glass, if it would say, oh my God, I'm so red. I don't want to be red. Why am I so red? Not recognizing what? I'm pure glass. I cannot be colored by that. So knowledge is what? Even if this flower remains near the glass, if you have the glass as knowledge, I am pure glass or crystal, I can never be colored by the flower, then I can live with the flower and I can live happily, being free of the flower. That is the whole trick here. Just bringing it in because we have our own projection on reality. So there is a Vyavaharika Satyam, which is the Prakriti. Maya is Vyavaharika Satyam. And on top of that Vyavaharika Satyam, we have another reality that we create. It is called Pratibhasika Satyam. Pratibhasika is my own individual projection. Whatever my mind feels is happening. Whatever I feel with given my background, given whatever experiences I have had, I project a reality onto this already unreal world. Can you imagine? We have two levels of projections now. Ishvara has his projection. Ishvara is the projection. And onto Ishvara, the jivas project. And half of my life, maybe most of my life, we spend with our own projections. So the first step in Vedanta is to differentiate my projection from what is. That is why all these practices are said. I have to differentiate from my projection from what is. See more of what is, less of this projection me. So this is what he is talking about here. Maya is introduced now in a threefold way. 3 gunas, qualities of the universe are introduced. First is sattva. Sattva guna is what? Sattva guna is the quality which allows the maximum manifestation of consciousness. That is why we do all of these practices for what? To increase our sattva guna. Yoga is for what? Increasing sattva guna. Niyamas, yamas, all of those, if you like, Ashtanga yoga is for what? Increasing sattva guna. Dietary habits is for what? Increasing sattva guna. Because we want that state of mind which reflects consciousness the most, so I can understand myself. I can discover myself. So that is what we are spending time on the practices for. It is not to create Atma, not to produce Atma. It is to discover what I already am, but I need the prepared mind for it. Like a wall, if sunlight falls on a wall, it doesn't reflect. That is like tamas. If it falls on a wall, it doesn't reflect. But if it falls on a mirror, it reflects. And then through the reflection, I recognize the source. But I have to see the reflection first. Right now, it is like a wall, the mind. Not everybody's, but yeah. There's no reflection to see. There's no reflection. Because I'm stuck in many thoughts. I'm stuck in the wrong perceptions of myself. I cannot see clearly my source. So he says, Sattva guna here has the capacity to reflect knowledge. So any knowledge, actually, when you have some insight, knowledge, Sattva guna is predominant in the mind. This pursuit of Shravanam requires a Sattvika predominant buddhi. Otherwise, you cannot sit in a Vedanta class and enjoy it. Most people, if they're put in this room for more than 10 minutes to listen to this, they'll run out quickly. They cannot sit and listen because the mind is not subtle enough to grasp. So when we talk about Sattva guna, knowledge coming with Sattva guna, we have to also be clear, it is not all types of knowledge. Because then all academics, professors will be all Sattva guna predominant, right? Because there are so many great, intelligent people who have so much knowledge of the world, but they are not Sattva guna predominant. So Rajas also, there are also tamasic ways of gaining knowledge. Intelligence is not dependent on being Sattva guna. What does Sattva guna give then? It gives clarity and subtlety. Clarity and subtlety are what is needed for understanding Vedanta. When you have a clear mind, a subtle mind, academics, professors may not have subtlety in their mind. They're doing everything for Rajas, publications, books, accolades, all of that. Subtlety of mind is a different thing. That type of clarity is required for Vedanta. So, unique characteristic of Sattva guna in an individual is knowledge, and knowledge with clarity and subtlety. Rajas, Rajoguna, when Rajas takes over, it is activity. So Rajas is the quality that drives, we have, even in the day, we have different times of the day. In India, they used to say, Brahma Muhurtam, the time of day, usually between 3 o'clock and 6, like that. You have a few hours where Sattva guna is said to be predominant in the mind. So many people get up at that time in the morning to perform certain sadhanas, because that is when the sadhanas become even more effective. Then after like 7, 8, what happens? Rajas takes over. Most people run on Rajas during the day. If you don't have Rajas, you won't do anything. So Rajas also is required for activity to take place. These gunas are all required in some measure or other. We don't say one is higher than the other. Tamas is also required. So some people, poor thing, they go tamas bashing. I'm so tamasic, No, sometimes tamas is required for rest of the body. Without tamas, I cannot rest my body or rest my mind. I will always be active all the time. And rajas leads to a lot of illness and all of that if I'm never restful. So tamas is also here to bring you down, bring you to rest. So Prakriti, what Shastra says, if all of these gunas are in equal proportion in the creation, then creation doesn't take place. So the original nature of Prakriti is to have everything in, like beginning of the creation process, the Sattva, Rajas and the Tamas are all in equilibrium. Then what disturbs the equilibrium? So this is where the texts say that the jivas, which are also in equilibrium, they're all in, as we saw, in the causal state. When the one cycle of creation gets dissolved, everything enters into its causal state. Nothing is destroyed. That's the beauty of this cycle. Nothing is destroyed. Everything is in causal form. But when the jivas clamor for their karmas to be exhausted, Ishvara can't handle it anymore. He says, okay, fine, I'm going to create. Okay, fine. Literally, there's words like so kamayat, so he so desired. Does he really desire? He so desired. He created this jagat. No, it is the gunas which come out of equilibrium. Then suddenly, in science they call it the Big Bang. Similarly, it is a bit like the Big Bang. Ishvara cannot control all the jivas wanting to expend their karmic account, so he bursts and the universe is produced. It's a very interesting theory. So he said, Prakriti is samanvita, it is associated with pratibimba, it is associated with the reflection. And this reflection is Chidanandamaya. Chidananda is that Chittanananda, it is a reflection. So whole Jagat is covered with Sat Chit Ananda. It is only a reflection of Sat Chit Ananda. In fact, I could recognize if I spend time, the Sat Chit Ananda in every object I can find some Ananda. That is real vision. Every object has Ananda, but I'm not able to see it. If I do some more inquiry, I can see that everything contains that consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda. Here the Maya, Mayat is it's a suffix in Sanskrit, Mayat pratyaya, and there are two ways it's used. One is modification and one is filling up something. So here, Annamaya, when we say Annamaya Kosha, it is not body is full of food. Body is a modification of food. Body is modified food. This physical body is modified food. Prachuryarte means Maya, when you use that Mayat, it is abundance of something. So here, it is Chidananda Maya here is not actually either of these two meanings. It means the Swarupa. The whole Jagat, Chidananda Maya, it is in the form of the Swarupa, the nature of consciousness. So Prakriti is also the nature of consciousness. So Prakriti is of two types. This is a bit technical here. So please, if you have questions, we can answer in satsang. Two types are mentioned here. One is with Sattva predominant Prakriti. Sattva Pradhana, when Sattva becomes predominant in the material world, that is one type of Prakriti. And the other one that is talked about here is Rajas predominant. When Rajas becomes predominant in Prakriti, then Sattva and Tamas become less. First of all, the first one, Sattva becomes predominant, then Rajas and Tamas are less. You cannot remove all the gunas. One is predominant, others become less. So everything is always three gunas, including yourself. But when sattva becomes predominant and the other two become less, or rajas becomes predominant and tamas and sattva become less, he talks about this sa prakriti vividha. Sa prakriti vividha, which means that it is divided. It is many because of the gunas, but here there are two particular gunas that he takes up, because when sattva is predominant, it is responsible for Ishvara. That is why he's talking about when rajas is predominant, it is jiva. So we're going to see this here. Whenever sattva guna is seen in prakriti, everything becomes very clear. It becomes very vivid. It becomes filled with clarity. You can perceive things. That is sattva guna in the creation. When sattva guna becomes predominant in the mind, the knowledge also becomes clear. Vritti jnanam is due to sattva guna arising in the mind. So he says in the 16th verse now, what is sattva predominant in this universe? And in the 17th verse he will talk about the jiva, which is rajas predominant in the creation. So he says, first one, sattva shuddhaya vishuddhibhyam. Good. Maya vidye cha te mate. Maya vidye cha te mate. Maya vidye cha te mate. Maya bimbo vashikritya. Maya bimbo vashikritya. Maya bimbo vashikritya. Tan syat sarvagnya ishvaraha. Tan syat sarvagnya ishvaraha. Tan syat sarvagnya ishvaraha. So how is Ishvara born? How is Ishvara? So this is interesting. So Prakriti, again the clarity of sattva. He says here, Maya, when sattva is totally pure. So sattva is totally pure meaning less rajas and tamas. As I said, you cannot have one guna only, because whole of creation is all three gunas. But when sattva becomes predominant, with less rajas, when sattva and avidya, he talks about two things. Maya, when sattva is totally pure with less rajas, and avidya. So there's two words that are used here again in Sanskrit. Maya, when sattva is totally pure, and avidya, when sattva is impure, which is more rajas. Sattva shuddhya vishuddhibhyam maya avidye. Again, we'll understand these words when we study actually more text, but when you say on the individual level, you call this ignorance maya. You call it avidya, right? You call it avidya, individual. On the macro level, you call it maya. And why is he saying in the macro level, maya is sattva predominant? We'll see why he says sattva predominant. For the individual, avidya is rajas predominant. So ignorance, rajas. When consciousness, Brahman, obtains in the sattva maya, when consciousness manifests through maya, it's a pure, clear medium of manifestation. It is undistorting upadhi. It doesn't distort this upadhi. It lends all knowledge and power to the creation. So that is, the Ishvara's, one of Ishvara's titles, we say he is omniscient, omnipotent. Omniscient, omnipotent, omniscient in English means all-knowing. Omnipotent means all-powerful. How does that happen? When Brahman reflects through the predominant sattva guna of Maya Shakti. So when sattva guna is less rajas, tamas, Brahman is reflecting. You can see consciousness manifesting through Maya Shakti. What happens? Whole world becomes all knowledge. Everything. What is all knowledge? All knowledge we can see. Seed. If you take any seed, take an apple tree seed, cut it in half. What do you see there? There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing. But when you plant it in the ground and you take care of it, what comes out of that seed? Apple tree. Does a mango tree come from apple seed? Does an oak tree come from apple seed? That is called all knowledge Ishvara. It is potential in everything. Everything you see in this Jagat is nothing but supreme intelligence. It is pure intelligence, and that, he says here, because the sattvic nature of Maya, whole creation is sattva actually. Because of the pure sattva guna, less rajas and tamas, consciousness manifesting through sattva makes the whole universe all knowledge, all powerful Ishvara. So that is what we call Ishvara, consciousness manifesting in creation, we call Ishvara. That is why we say Ishvara is in the form of various orders. The order of physical order, biological order, chemical order, water cycle. Look at this order. Amazing. All of this water we are receiving now is what evaporated from all the water bodies. If you see the water cycle, it is all recycled water, right? It's a beautiful, all knowledge. Who decides? Who decides all this? That is what all knowledge Ishvara is. Manifesting. Maya Upadhi is needed for the manifestation to be recognized. Otherwise Brahman just is. So actually, Maya, although there is, we'll see on the individual level, she covers us, there's a deluding Shakti. She has two powers. One is Vikshepa, projective power. Other is Avarana, which is covering power, veiling power. In creation, there's no veiling because it is all knowledge. That is what makes Ishvara without ignorance. On the individual level, avidya comes into play, but on the macrocosmic level, there is nothing but all knowledge. It is beautiful. From the seed to, there's everything you take in nature, you can really see the all knowledge. There's a bird, I always remember Arctic tern, it flies right from the North Pole. When it is winter, it flies so many thousands of miles, like 14,000 miles or something, goes all the way to New Zealand. It knows the jet streams, it knows the air currents, it knows its route. How does it know? How does it know how to get to New Zealand? Every year it does that trip. It does that trip every year. Does it have sat-nav? No, we need GPS. All knowledge is there in everything in creation. You can see from the tiniest of birds to the smallest of creatures, just observe. It is Ishvara manifesting through everything. It is Brahman manifesting through Sattva Guna, through all the upadhis. These smaller upadhis are just, we see all the insects and creatures, they're just tiny upadhis, but what is really happening? It is all knowledge manifesting. Every moment we are surrounded by Ishvara, all knowledge Ishvara. So this is what is called, he says here, Sattva pure medium is called Maya. The Sattva pure medium is called Maya, and because it doesn't distort the manifestation. As I said, on the individual level, consciousness manifesting through a sattvic mind doesn't distort knowledge. Knowledge manifests through sattva predominant mind. On the macrocosmic level, it manifests through creation, all knowledge. Beautiful, even that we're connected. There's always a connection between individual and whole on all levels. So we will see what is our problem after. Why we can't recognize this, we will see in the next session. Om Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, Sarve santu niramayaः, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, Kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, Asato ma sadgamaya, Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.